So welcome to this week's meditation atelier. I was saying that there's actually around 19 of us in this little community. So holding that in mind as you're practicing, even outside of the live recordings, that you are held as part of a group of people who are learning to rest in the present moment, create new neural pathways, and support our health and well-being with these very specific techniques that I'm guiding through. So this week we're going to be doing the mindfulness of breathing. This can be done sitting or lying down, so listening to what your body needs today. If you are sitting, having your hips higher than your knees and your feet sort of hip width apart. So you're trying to create a really solid foundation, knowing that, well, I'm bearing in mind that sitting for long periods is not comfortable for the body. I remember when I first began practicing, to be honest, I think it was about 2 or 3 years in, I was in agony sitting, and I went to a yoga class and I talked to the yoga teacher about my posture, and she looked at what I was doing. She said, well, it all looks fine. Can you tell me what you're doing with the other 23 hours of your day? Obviously, a chunk of that was sleeping, but the majority was sitting at a desk and not taking care of my body outside of the practice was what was actually coming up for me physically within the practice. So sometimes it isn't about our posture, it's about what we're doing with the rest of our day. So bearing that in mind, let's set up. So as I've mentioned before, I've got a stool that puts me at a natural gradient, which I find helpful. Making sure that you're warm enough. I conveniently spilled a drink here, so I'm going to decorate myself with a nice scarf. It's not that cold here. Let's arrive. So checking in with that posture, ensuring that you've got that solid foundation. If you're sitting in a chair, your feet flat on the floor. And just picturing somebody perhaps pulling you up by the crown of your head, elongating your spine, gently tucking your chin. And an invitation to have your eyes open or closed. If you're feeling particularly tired, having them open with a soft gaze can be helpful. This intention to fall awake rather than fall asleep. Though if you fall asleep, this is not a time to criticize, it's a time to notice and acknowledge that you are tired. Perhaps there are some things that you could be doing to support your sleep now for later in the day. So an invitation to do a quick body scan in your own time, checking in your left leg in your own way. What's going on in your left leg? And then moving across to the right leg. What's here? Tingling shapes, colors, textures. And then moving to the trunk area of the body, sweeping around and checking in what's here. We're not changing anything, simply noticing, acknowledging, giving time and space for our bodies. And having a look at the left arm. Moving to the right arm. The neck. And then the scalp and face. Perhaps checking for Any points of tension that you might find here? We have a tendency to kind of scrunch up our face when we're concentrating. Can you let that go? And ideally, having a closed mouth with your tongue resting on the roof of your mouth. Just checking that those shoulders aren't up by your ears if you're sitting, and that you're not holding in your belly. We want as much space as possible for our lungs to breathe. You can hold it in for the rest of the day afterwards. And then an invitation to narrow your attention to your breath, not changing the rhythm in any way, simply observing the flow of your breath. As you breathe in, pause, breathe out, pause. If the breath isn't somewhere that you want to rest today, you can find a neutral part of your body to observe the breath from. So maybe your left eyebrow, your belly button, a sort of neutral point to observe the breath. It isn't always a comfortable place to be. It can feel claustrophobic sometimes. So remembering that there's no right or wrong way of doing this practice. We're simply learning to settle in the present moment using the breath as an anchor. And we can do this from a neutral part in the body. So somewhere within the body that doesn't have a story, that you don't easily criticize and judge. Sort of like watching a football match, or that idea of being on the sidelines rather than right in there at the breath. You don't have to be at the nostrils or the lungs or the throat. You can observe your experience from the sidelines. So holding that in mind, an invitation to observe the in-breath from either one specific point within the breath, in the body, or perhaps observing the whole of the in-breath as you breathe in, as it travels up the nostrils and sort of turns around and gets sucked down past the throat into the upper chest, perhaps into the lower belly. Observing your in-breath. And you can count if that feels right for you. 1 up to 10. It's not a competition, there's no prize for getting to 10. In fact, the key to the practice is noticing that our mind has wandered and bringing it back. So each time you lose your way, congratulating yourself and then returning your attention back to the in-breath, either counting or observing from that neutral point within your body. Noticing where the mind goes, and if thoughts are particularly distracting, you can say to yourself, I'll attend to you later. Perhaps dropping into the felt sensation of that within the body. A sense of urgency, how your mind has more important things to be doing than focusing on the breath, that this is boring and mundane for our minds. We're observing and noticing, being kind and tender towards ourselves. This is normal. This is what minds do, and it's their job. We're using this muscle of returning our attention to the breath and counting if that's helpful, again and again and again. Sensations of the in-breath. Noticing the coolness of the air as it travels up your nostrils. And where does it go from here? Can you notice, can you feel the sensations in the back of your throat? Can you notice what your body does to pull the air down? Our breath is one of the areas of the parasympathetic nervous system that we can control directly. And whilst we're not trying to control anything here, we can observe and perhaps activate it without being intentional about it. There's nothing to achieve, but being in the present moment and observing our in-breath. Perhaps taking a moment to wonder at the intricacies of the breath. How your body knows what to do. You can wander off into stories and the future and the past, and your body continues to breathe, to nourish you and cleanse toxins. And when you've noticed that you've wandered off into those stories, that you can return your attention here and be with your direct experience of your breath as a way of anchoring in the present moment, building those new neural pathways. To soothe and calm. And then just as we brought our attention to the in-breath, I'm going to invite you to turn your attention to the out-breath. What's most vivid here? What can you observe of your out-breath? Finding a specific point within the breath or following a whole flow. So you breathe out, observing from that neutral point within your body. What's different? What can you notice? Shapes, colours, textures, intricacies. And then counting if that feels helpful. Just checking in with your posture. We have a tendency to sort of sink and slump. So every now and again, check in with yourself, holding your body with grace and dignity. As we observe our out-breath together in our various corners of the world and time zones. No matter who we are, we all breathe. Our minds wander. And then we'll all be returning them over and over and over again back to the present moment and observing the out-breath and counting if that's helpful. From 1 to 10 and back again. Perhaps be helpful to know that most people make it to 3 before their minds wander off. Observing if you criticize yourself. Observing if you congratulate yourself if you get to 10. This isn't the goal. There is no goal, but simply to observe the out-breath. Checking with your face, not frowning, in concentration. Perhaps an invitation to add a light smile to your face. Honouring the time that you've taken out of your day to be here, to carve out this space. It's not easy. The out-breath. And this out-breath. And now an invitation to turn your attention to the pauses between the in-breath and the out-breath. The stillness or the busyness that you notice here. Perhaps finding a way to count if that's helpful. It's not always helpful to count it. It can encourage obsessional behaviours. But if it's helpful and useful, and supports you in grounding in the present moment and observing the pauses between your in-breath and out-breath. And the technique is there. What's happening in the stillness? As oxygen gets exchanged and carbon dioxide removed, your cells are given what they need to take care of you, and those organs and vessels and glands and that physiology that I can't remember. Moment to marvel in the stillness of what's going on in your body that you don't need to control or do anything about. It just does it. It goes fairly unnoticed unless things are going wrong. 99.9% of the time, just gets on with it. Each time the mind wanders off, returning it again, 1,000 times. Noticing where you went and returning your attention with kindness and tenderness towards yourself. Mind is just doing what minds do. And now an invitation to turn your attention towards the full cycle of the breath. As you breathe in and pause, breathe out and pause, breathe in, pause, breathe out, pause. Might be nanoseconds between your in-breath and out-breath. You may observe from one specific point or follow the whole cycle, noticing where the breath disappears, what the body does to pull the air in and push it out, to nourish you and keep you going. And again, the invitation to count if that's helpful. Or letting it go, trying something different. Now letting go of paying attention to anything specific within the breath. Having a sense of breathing in your body. Breathing into and out of your body, holding your whole body in your mind's eye. As we've been sitting in stillness for a while now, perhaps some uncomfortable sensations have arisen within your body, or distractions. I'm going to explore 3 techniques for giving you a choice as to how to respond to these sensations or distractions. It could be pleasurable sensations, it could be discomfort. It could be distracting thoughts. Being with distractions in a mindful way. So the first option is to move. Move your body. Weaving the movements into the practice. Readjusting your posture, observing how your body has got an idea of what it needs to do. Slowing down the movements and making them a part of the practice, not criticizing yourself, weaving them in, slowing down the movements. Noticing heaviness and lightness and temperatures, colors, sensations, the sounds. And then resting in the felt sensation of having made those movements, observing the felt sensation of having adjusted, massaged or scratched the itch. Being curious and interested in what it is to be you and having made those movements. Dropping into the felt sensation within the body, having moved yourself away from the thought. What's here? What can you notice? Having made the movement. Perhaps relief. What does that feel like? Where do you feel that in the body? Perhaps disappointment that it didn't change anything. What does that feel like? Noticing and observing as we learn to listen to the language of our bodies that goes so ignored for the most part of our days. As we're busy in the important, allegedly important work of the mind. We've dropped into our bodies, leaving behind our thinking, analysing into being, human beings. What's here, having made those movements? And then the second choice is to observe the sensation. Don't need to go right into it. You can observe the physical and felt sensation within the body, around the edges, going as close as you wish to the sensation. Your direct and physical experience. Where is it within the body? What is it? Does it have a shape, a colour, a texture, a movement? Same way that we observe within the body scan. We're observing the sensation, the challenge, the difficulty. Does it move? Is it in one place? Does it feel like a heavy stone or a balloon? or a scribble, light shading, a watercolor, an oil painting. Finding an analogy that works for you. Being curious and tender and kind and interested in your experience, this sensation, this challenge, this difficulty, this distraction. And resting in the present moment. And then the third option is to use the breath, either breathing around or into the sensation. You can use a soft breath, like fogging up a window or a mirror, or a firm, direct breath, like blowing out a candle. And then at any point you can bring your attention back to the breath within your body, knowing that you've got those three options. You can move, you can observe, you can use the breath. Observing your breath in your body. Having a sense of where you begin and end. Contact that you're making with the earth. The feel of the fabric against your skin. The air against your skin. This shell that holds us and houses us is always there as an anchor to the present moment. You breathing here. In your body, in this moment. Mysteries, yes, by Mary Oliver. Truly, we live with mysteries too marvelous to be understood. How grass can be nourishing in the mouths of lambs. How rivers and stones are forever in allegiance with gravity. While we ourselves dream of rising. How two hands touch and the bonds will never be broken. How people come from delight or the scars of damage to the comfort of a poem. Let me keep my distance always from those who think they have the answers. Let me keep company always with those who say, look, and laugh in astonishment and bow their heads. So a moment to listen to your body and what it needs in this moment. We're going to move into tea practice. And the intention of this is to slowly and carefully prepare a cup of tea or watch me making a tea. And the idea of this being a transition into how we can approach the mundane activities of our days and perhaps bring a moment of extraordinariness to them in the same way that you have been exploring with your breath in your body. So this week I'm drinking a Sister St. Canis Rock Rose. So I'll prepare you cup 2. You're listening to the sounds and observing the colours. I'm going to open up the space to sharing our experience of the practice. For those of you who are practicing in your own time, an invitation to pause and perhaps reflect on your direct experience of what it was to be with your breath in your body, the in-breath, the out-breath, the pauses, the flow. What came up? What did you notice? Perhaps journaling, writing 1 page. It's a way of a bit of a brain dump. And you can reach out if anything came up. So an invitation to pause. Okay, So we're going to close the practice with a breathing exercise, and this is a breathing. This is designed to activate our parasympathetic nervous system. So this is one to be practicing. I will leave a link to this on the page afterwards. So as you are, don't need to settle into any particular posture. You can have your eyes open or closed as you wish. Just taking a moment to arrive in your body, dropping back into the body. We're going to observe the breath in a very specific way, and we're going to count. So breathing into the count of 4, holding for 2, and then breathing out to the count of 5. Holding for 2, breathing in for the count of 4, your counts, as long as short as you like. Holding for 2, and breathing out to the count of 6. Holding for 2, breathing into the count of 4. Holding for 2, and breathing out to the count of 7. Holding for 2, breathing into the count of 4. Holding for 2, and breathing out to the count of 8. And then following this rhythm, using your own counts for 3 cycles of your breath. And then returning your breath to its natural rhythm. And just taking a moment to acknowledge the time that you've taken out of your day to be here. Honoring this space, your body. You've taken this time to listen to it, pay attention. And that in doing so, you've taken an active step in taking care of your own health and well-being. And as best you can, taking this sense of connection and awareness into whatever you have left to do with your day. Thank you so much for joining me, and do reach out if anything has come up or you need any tips or advice.